Jimmy, Matthew, he's the Hoboken.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hi.
nice to meet you, Matt.
Yes.
Thanks for letting me join.
Thanks for coming on. Did you go visit Mark today at the Hoboken Farmers Market?
I did. I got some broth. I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna be in the midst of making a stew during this call.
Totally cool. Perfect.
That is
It makes
perfect.
sense.
That's what we like to hear.
And Jody, what are you eating over there?
Your salad. And I have my primal ground burger on the stove. Sorry, guys, I just ran in the door.
Your
Yum.
favorite. Thanks for
I love the
joining.
primal ground.
My favorite.
Nice.
So we did request for 3 other farmers to join us today because they're notorious for not being able to complete their schedules as they wish they could. Perfect example. We were running late because we had a surge on the farm and it blew out 2 of our 8 freezers. So we had to do a mad panic to consolidate, and I have a buddy of mine who knows how to fix these things, and he's over there checking out computer boards and cylinders to get these things back up and running. But
And John Lima was with us almost all day trying to figure out how to fix everything, so he might not be able to join.
yeah, John's probably not going to join. It's gonna, I guess. He was walking around kind of disgruntled with the day. He just built a slaughterhouse on the farm, so he's going to be one of 3 in the entire country that has a USDA inspected facility on the farm.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's coming very soon. That's
Very
why
soon.
we had the issues today. They're trying to do some electric work and hook stuff up, and
something surged when they flipped on the power to the new facility, and it shut it blew out panels on all the other facilities.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he brought over a generator that's like the price of our most expensive car and hooked it up to our facility, and
so we're good.
we're good. We have power for the time being.
Maybe we should be celebrating that nothing exploded and nothing's on fire.
No,
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it was close.
The
It was
barn
close.
next to
Oh my
us
God.
was very close.
The barn next to us was very close. We were glad we caught it in time, but the panel board was basically on fire.
Wow.
Yeah. So John didn't have that in his agenda for today.
Neither did we.
Oh my God.
And then one that I'm really happy about. I just met with her. Her name is Rachel Sickler. I'm hoping she gets to join us. She's a regenerative farmer, and she's doing things very differently than what we're all being taught in this regenerative farming movement. There are many ways to be a regenerative farmer. And what I really like about what she's doing is she's young, she's using the means that she has to make it work, to make it happen, and to do it at the best of her ability with what she can. But she's very just proactive about regenerative farming and making the land healthier and doing things right. But we won't dive into that just yet because I want to get into the details about all of that. And hopefully if she joins us, I could have her go into even further detail, because when I was out there, she gave me quite a bit of an education. I've been in this for 10 years, and yet I still come across farmers doing things differently and trying to find ways to make things work for what they're doing. But the best part about them is they're only serving and feeding their communities. She even says she tried shipping meat, and she's like, I don't do much sales with it, and I don't want to put my time and effort towards it. I'm trying to draw people here. That's why she loves what we do, and she wants to work with us. So that just means we're going to be able to offer more options for people.
We
Amazing.
do have one of our farmers on the call, Joe Heckman. I think I saw on here.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi,
Hey,
Joe.
Joe.
Can you see me?
Hi, Joe.
Browse across, we might see him one more time.
Ron, I wanted to tell you that 2 of my cows are getting pretty big. So if you're looking for some cows,
Nice.
Yeah.
come take a look at them sometime.
Those are field harvests. So we harvest them right off Joe's fields. that's the way we should be doing it. We have to convince a lot of people in office to be okay with that. So,
Well, these are the cows that we would sell, while they're alive in cow shares. So people sign up to buy Joe's cows, and then we go ahead and sell it before.
yeah, if we sell the cows to people before and it's their property, then we're legally allowed to harvest and butcher the cow at our own accord. We would use custom butchers, but we don't need to go through the USDA if people are personally buying these cows. So that's a big reason people do it.
One thing that I'd like to mention, though, that would help out a lot of farmers. Thomas Massey, he's a congressman from Kentucky. He has a bill called the Prime Act, and the Weston A. Price Foundation, they really want us to all call our congressman and ask them to support that bill, which would help farmers with butchering and get away from the USDA requirements. If it's done within the state can regulate it, and there could be more butchers and so on, and we could get away from having to use these USDA facilities. So check out the Prime Act, and there's some good information there about it at the Weston A. Price Foundation.
Joe also introduced the new something he brought to my attention today, a company called Real Organic that's trying to actually take organic and turn it into something that's more of a community-based certification, not a USDA-based certification. It's pretty interesting what they're doing, and I wish that I had been able to join Joe at their last meetup in New York. But it seems like a group of just young pioneers who are tired of what the USDA considers organic and charging farmers who are already struggling to make ends meet, certain amounts of time and money to certify themselves organic, where we should be able to publicly say we're organic. Like, unfortunately, we can't.
Ron, can I talk a little bit about the Real Organic? Because I was just there on Saturday.
Yeah.
I went with Cliff Priestess. We drove up there representing Enofa, New Jersey. And it was a really nice conference, a lot of great presentations. It was at Churchtown Dairy in the Hudson Valley, which is Abby Rockefeller's farm. And if they have a conference up there again, this is something you won't want to miss. I mean, the farm is so incredibly beautiful. The barn is like a cathedral, and that's what they used for the presentations. Abby Rockefeller loves raw milk, and she started up this dairy because she's a big fan of raw milk. It's biodynamic. The cows are on pasture. They keep the horns. They keep the cow and the calf together. It's not about raising production. It's about quality and beauty. And it was just a really beautiful program. And this Real Organic project started about 5 years ago. And you should look them up. Just web search Real Organic and find out what they're about. They send out an email, kind of a podcast newsletter every Sunday. And they're pretty interesting to read and look at and so on. Many of them are raw milk dairy farmers. Not all of them. Some are just, organic. But what Real Organic is about is trying to overcome some of the problems with the USDA organic certification program, where the USDA is really not enforcing the traditional standards of organic. Organic is very much soil-based, soil health, and the USDA is neglecting to enforce, put it this way, they're permitting hydroponic operations to be certified organic. They're permitting livestock farms that do not put their animals on pasture to be certified organic. And there'll be thousands and thousands of cows on one farm in confinement. And it doesn't make it much different than a regular conventional farm. And
Right.
so
So
this whole
Joe,
group of farmers got dissatisfied with the USDA standards, and so they set up this add-on standard. First, you become certified organic, and then you get this further certification to be real organic. And so, anyway, that's what it's.
so I just wanted to interrupt just to make sure everybody knows that you're a soil scientist as well as a farmer.
That's right. I just got through teaching soil fertility. I teach soil fertility at Rutgers. I also teach organic crop production. I'm teaching it through Zoom, kind of like what we're doing right here. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's
um,
nice to hear because the big understatement with organic is it's limited to what the animals are eating. Okay, yes, you're feeding them organic feed, but this is great to hear. What about the soil? What about
Oh,
regenerating?
sure.
Yeah.
One big problem with hydroponics, it creates a lot of trash that's plastic. It doesn't look like an ecological system. There was this blueberry grower contrasting his system with so-called organic, which is hydroponic. So many blueberries are grown hydroponically today, and so just a striking contrast. Yeah, still. And then the other thing is that, the animal operations that are so-called organic, many of them are not putting their animals on pasture. And I can tell you, and I've reviewed the data, I've looked at the science. One thing that really, really makes a huge difference in the quality of food is putting animals outside on pasture. That's where they want to be. That's their natural environment. And it puts more conjugated linoleic acid in the food, in the meat and the milk. There's more fat soluble vitamins associated with pasture raised compared to grain fed confinement. It really, really makes a difference. You can see the difference, you can taste the difference, and it is a real difference. It's a meaningful difference, and it's very, very important, whether you're
And-
organic or not.
Yeah.
Put those
And
animals
what
in
about
pasture.
and
And minimize grain feeding too. Feed less grain, feed more forages.
So this
And
is
the
a
soil
perfect time to
matter.
jump into what our discussion is here. First, so Will is on this call. Will's been a pioneer for us since our last call
Oh yeah,
in
well,
solving a lot of our tech problems that I mean I
keep an email away.
Yeah,
Text
a
away.
text away. The guy's been all over it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Amazing.
And Will, thank you. So he's been helping us a lot. It's allowed us to find more time to, put towards the facility and everything else that we were discussing. We are just about complete with the extended build out on Lima Farms, which we hadn't even started yet. So at that point, moving forward, our systems are going to change to be more efficient. And then once they're more efficient, we're hoping that we can start to bring more offerings to everyone. Because right now, it's going to increase our capacity. It's going to increase the time and the speed of getting things in and out. So that's great. And then on the farm front, our farmstead, we've gotten our fields plowed for the third time this year. Our soils were tested. Everything's super clean. Just we need to hire the pH a little bit, but it's not too difficult. But we're hoping to start. We got some pawpaw trees in the ground. For anyone who's not familiar with pawpaws, they're native fruits that really don't require any treatments at all. They're just not very marketable because they're not pretty. So a lot of farmers steered away from them. They also have a very short shelf life. But because of the community that we're building, that's not an issue for us because we can harvest and distribute.
So if this is prime pawpaw season right now, it's about one more week left.
Yeah, I think it's the last week.
So you'll see it in your veggie shares for sure.
They're not from our farm, but at some point, hopefully in the next 5 years, the trees will start to fruit and we'll start to be able to provide.
Yeah, we just planted
pawpaws.
seedlings here.
Yeah.
So a pawpaw tastes like a mixture of a mango, a banana, and I think like a custard almost.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
tastes like
And-
phenomenal, like something you would get in like the islands, not North America,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it is from
absolutely.
here
It-
and delicious.
And the
Ron?
softer they are, the easier to peel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat special fruit. I have right now persimmons if you're interested in.
Yeah, we totally
Mm.
take
persimmons.
persimmons.
So
Are they American or Asian?
American,
Nice. Yeah, they're
and
not that that's like racial.
they ripen over a period of
American's
years.
better. The American ones are better. It tastes better.
The original.
Is there a difference in taste? Like, what would the difference be between, like, what is it,
I-
American versus Japanese?
They're similar, but the most important thing is that they truly be ripe before you put it in your mouth. If they're not, they're rather astringent.
Yeah, very stringent.
It'll make your mouth go numb,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But once they're ripe, you get a good. You got a good few days to enjoy them.
Yeah, in the veggie share, we also put in a sheet explaining what pawpaws are, the best time to eat them, how to eat them. So we should do the same with the persimmon. I feel like a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
And
And isn't it something with
thank you.
pawpaw that you're not supposed to cook it? Or is that, did I make that up?
Pawpaws, I'm not sure.
How would you cook it? Like,
I tried persimmons. I tried to make a jam with persimmons, and that was a bad idea. Yeah, I rented them for a while, and they were just as astringent as when I put them in the pot. Probably more. Probably more.
and just for Jen, thank you for sharing the links on the
Yeah, in the chat.
and the chat.
Of
Yeah.
course.
All right, so we'll dive into regenerative farming. Hopefully, people will come and go. Hopefully, Rachel will be able to join us. So Joe already kind of touched on confinement, and then Adam, I think if you wanted to, I don't know if the PowerPoint presentation is something that, but this is probably a good place to start. I know many people on this call are probably already familiar with a lot of this stuff. This was a presentation I put together 8 years ago, when I started going to just talking at different like buildings in Jersey City. We were trying to work out arrangements with the the owners of these buildings or the superintendents of these buildings to gather the people from their buildings down to do these, nutritional talks. We would offer food, and I mean, in the city, again, 8 years ago, there really wasn't much momentum in this direction. So this was, people couldn't keep up with the presentation. This is just a portion of the presentation. I was definitely trying to feed a lot of information into people all at once. I think it got a little overwhelming. But here, this is typical conventional farming. Now, this is, even organic conventional farming, Cal Organics that Whole Foods carries is following operations like this. They're just using chemicals that are more organic. So the biggest issue is it's not even the sprays, it's the fact that it's a monocultural practice. You're not diversifying your soils. And then if you're doing animal confinement, the compaction of all of those animals on those soil plots, there is absolutely nothing for they literally say that 85% of the animals that are in this image of confinement would die before they reached maturity without the use of antibiotics put into their feed. So they're eating out of troughs that are put a number 2 corn, so all the corn that's grown in the state, in the country, other countries as well, soybean, sorghum, anything that develops a grain and produces high carbohydrate intake is being fed to the animals here along with antibiotics in the feed. This is what people are buying at all supermarkets. Whole Foods might be a little better. But even the good farmers that they were working with, one is Will Harris, White Oak Pastures down in Bluffton, Georgia. They gave up his account because he wasn't able to produce enough for them. And he is the largest regenerative farmer in the country. So what does that tell you? you know, what are we looking at when we're in these stores? You know, they're saying grass-fed beef, but these are all generic terms, and I'm going to get further into that as we move along. The biggest issue with these practices is this is what's destroying our environment. This is what's destroying our soils, but this is all being purchased by us. Like, we are funneling money into these systems. This is why you can buy a dozen eggs for 75 cents, $1.25. These are things we do not want to support, and neither should the people around us. We should be trying to educate these people on what is actually happening, because what it is they're, you know, the U.S. government is subsidizing soy, corn, sorghum, wheat, barley. They're now hemp. They're basically subsidizing all these crops and then finding avenues to move them. So part of the avenue to move them is to give it to animals in confinement. They're already making money. They're already paying the farmer for what they're worth, or what they think they're worth, based off the market price of corn and soy. So this system right here is affecting our economy. It's affecting our environment. It's affecting our well-beings as human beings. It's very intense what's going on here. I mean, and we don't get to see it every day. This is why I'm presenting it, because if you do drive 12-hour, if you do drive across country, you can literally sit on, they call it the corn belt, for 12 hours and be surrounded by nothing but corn. And like, to talk about that there's not enough land fertility to produce enough food for humans, that's just complete fabrication. That's BS, more than I care to admit. We just choose not to, because we can make this more affordable and this more convenient. And people who want to have control, that's literally the reason that they continue to do this, can do it. You know, this is why they turn corn into ethanol. This is why corn is now an adhesive in most of our pharmaceuticals. This is why corn and soy lecithin is an emulsifier in most processed foods. Where do we put all this stuff that we're growing? Well, we sell it to people and we determine their value in our market. And that's why this is just a conundrum, and we need to move away from this as fast as possible, because this is not sustainable.
I think that people are getting educated, especially everybody on this call, obviously.
Yes.
This call is recorded, and the great thing is that people share it and it goes to other people as well. But, you know, the term, I think once you get more and more educated, you start searching for labels such as grass-fed. And what I think the point is, across the country, nationwide, there's so many food chains that this is where they're buying from. So let's say, to name off the top of my head, a healthier choice of convenience when you're going out is Chipotle, let's say, or like, no one's claiming that they're where they're buying from. Like, we don't get that transparency across the nation. That, I think that's the biggest
And
one.
no one's holding them accountable, because these people are the ones funneling the money into these systems. So no one's going to hold them accountable. It's the same idea with organic. You know, the biggest or the USDA organic label is being funded by large USDA organic farmers. So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? Like, they're going to determine what USDA organic means. And this is why communities are trying to pull away from it, because it's like, why am I paying into your system? You're just going to charge me more to pay into your system to call myself organic, because it serves you to make it difficult for me, because this is your organization. And that's just because we're on too big of a scale. Food and farming wasn't like this until industrialization. And 120 years is a very small period of time in the grand scheme of human evolution. I know all of you know this, and I'm going on my rants, but this is why we work so hard to bring you guys the best foods and to serve the farmers who are working hard to make ends meet. That's like the nature of the game, but it's really against the grain on an economical scale. You can go to the next one, Adam. So this is pastoral grazing. This is Lima Farms. These are turkeys out in the field in the middle picture. You see his Angus beef on the left-hand side. You see his lamb
When he
used to do lamb on the right. Basically, the idea of regenerative farming is to keep it a closed circle. It's a decentralized system. So they aren't dependent on outside sources with to make their animals thrive, to make their vegetables thrive, to make their land thrive. If their land is thriving, the rest of them are thriving. So basically what they do is they do a rotation of animals, they do a rotation of crop. You know, when an animal lays its dung, all dung has its own benefits depending on the type of ruminant that animal, you know, the ruminant that animal is, meaning like its digestive system extracts certain minerals, but then emits other minerals back into the soil, and all animals are different. It's the same thing with vegetables. Vegetables are, you know, they take in the air, you know, and then into the root systems, they're drawing up nutrients, they're extracting nutrients, they're emitting nutrients back into the soil, they're sequestering carbon back into the soil, and it's creating these beautiful, healthy soil ecosystems. John just told me a great story that I was so excited to share with you. I wanted him to share it with you guys tonight. If anyone's familiar with dung beetles basically eat the dung of animals, bring it back into the soil. They create habitats and homes with it. They also eat it and digest it and create, you know, and their own larvae, and they feed their larvae. John has noticed since he's been grazing more. First off, when he started on his farm 10 years ago, there was 2% organic matter in his soil. He's now up to 8.5% organic matter in his soil in just 10 years. And that's with no added elements, you know, without the use of animal or crop. So his soils are getting healthier. And now what's happening is there's more aggregate. When the soils are healthier, there's more aggregate, there's more air, things are thriving. So what's happening now is he had a bad issue with flies. A solution that a lot of regenerative farmers are trying to take are to use soldier flies to come in and eat the fly larvae. Soldier flies are a different type of fly that feed on carcass. They feed on other elements, but if you bring them into your environment, they also feed on the larvae of the flies that are more pesty, more pests to the cows. If anyone's ever visited a farm, especially in like the hot summer months, you know, when cows poop, they leave poop on their tails, they leave poop on their backs, and then flies are just buzzing around them. You know, flies are part of our ecosystem one way or another. Like they have purpose in our environment just as much as any other insect, even though they suck. You know, I hate them. We all do. They're terrible, but they have their purpose. Food breakdown, you know, they serve a lot. They're big in big reason for what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, drew a blank. Like when they eat our food, when composting, like if you don't have flies, you're not composting. So basically what's happening now is the dung beetles are coming up, they're taking the poop, but because the aggregate is so broad, the dung beetles are bringing it back down into the soil, and they're doing it at such speeds now that his fly population is depleting because the flies aren't able to lay their larvae on the dung before the dung beetles get it and bring it back into their soil. So he's seeing these natural elements in his, and now that they're bringing more dung back into the soil, that soil is just going to get healthier and healthier and healthier. There's going to be nothing but organic matter in that soil. And he sees it with his grasses. He grows 250 varieties of grasses. You know, most of us don't even know that many exists. But John is a wizard when it comes to these things, and he loves it. He's definitely a nerd about it, to the point where, you know, he's figured it out. So, you know, his animals are thriving, his vegetables are thriving. You know, everyone talks about antibiotics. He's had to use antibiotics once in the 6 years that we've been with him, and it's because a cow broke his leg. And he didn't want it to be infected. So he gave the cow antibiotics. But that's the only time he ever gave the cow antibiotics. If you're giving antibiotics to animals that you care for the same way you would your children or you would anybody else, if you desperately need to and didn't have another alternative, you know, there's nothing to say that that's bad. When
And
people
he takes it out of rotation.
and he takes it out of
Yeah.
rotation. So
Until they get it out of their system.
get it out. Yep. And then
I think the rotational is definitely the common thread to regenerative.
Yeah.
Because regenerative farming is all about taking care of the land, and rotating allows, even we were talking to John about the other night about lamb. and how they're very prone to parasites. But so are pigs. But if you keep them moving, that you can eliminate that, because you're constantly moving them. And even with the vegetables,
They're even learning that if you share land with lamb and cows, the cows can eat the grasses that might have the worms that affect the lamb. So if they're grazing in pastures together, it could also serve the purpose of eliminating that need for deworming your livestock.
yeah, you have the lamb go first, and then you have the cows go second, and you keep it in that rhythm, and you can eliminate the parasites. And also for vegetable growing, they have to constantly rotate where they're growing the vegetables. Same reason.
Yeah, because vegetables extract, like there's a lot of vegetables that are very extractive. Like if you see sunflowers, they're beautiful fields, but they extract a lot from the soil. So most of the time, if they're growing sunflowers in a field, they're not going to be growing them the following season because they might not do as well as they did the initial.
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be.
The mono farming has to
The
has to
monocultural.
start changing.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one. And then I want to get into detail about grass-fed. So this is perfect. So you see this on the left, this is a multi-layered farm, all different crops being grown, people in there with their hands, diversity. This is going to create a healthy ecosystem. Cows grazing on the field. You're going to get healthier meats, you're going to get leaner meats, you're basically simulating their natural habitat. What would cows be doing if we didn't have 7-8 billion people in the world? They would just be roaming their lands freely, moving to the next pasture that serves them. But there's a lot of people in the world. We created agriculture. Agriculture created territory. So now we have perimeters and properties that we can't pass because of agriculture. Because that's what initiated the entire idea of property lines, was agriculture. Who's going to produce this and who's going to produce it for who and how many people and how often and frequency and bartered systems. And this is how communities eventually built themselves off of agriculture pre-industrialization when we brought in the combustion engine. Once the combustion engine came in, we just took it to a whole other level. And that level is why we're in the predicament that we're in right now. So this provides less carbon footprint. So one thing that we should all know is that we're in a closed system. There's never more water in our system. There's never more carbon in our system, but that's between the air and ground. What you need is a balance. So if you have carbon in the air, there should be an equal balance of carbon in the soil. We can extract more, but you can never survive without carbon in the air because plants need carbon to survive. So, the only reason I'm sharing this is because of all the propaganda around there kind of pushing people, saying this is unhealthy. This is, we have this environmental catastrophe underway, climate change. Climate change is a natural thing. I can't speak on it because I'm only, 41 years old and it's only been, these things take time to develop. Are we expediting it? Yes, we are, because we're emitting more carbon than we're sequestering. So that imbalance is why we're in the predicament we're in and why it's so important for us to kind of get back to these natural methods and natural ways of living versus being so dependent on these carbon emitting pieces of technology that we use. So yeah, this is what a good system looks like. So the thing I want to talk about now is grass-fed. We've been in this for 10 years at this point. When I met Rachel Sickler, she is I think I sent you some pictures of her farm, Adam, if you can pull that up.
Yeah, give me a minute. You can continue and I'll bring those up.
Sure. So she rotates grain on her property. So when she bought the farm, she's the first generation. Her and her husband bought it. They was a grain production farm. So was John Lima's. John Lima did mostly hay. I think hay was what he started with when he got to the farm. So they were growing mass commodity. There wasn't much crop diversification. So what she did is she slowly, with her means, her and her husband's means, she slowly started to integrate animals into the operation. So basically they would, now that what they're growing is sorghum, non-GMO corn, non-GMO soy. And what they do is they do a crop rotation with those on their paddocks. Now, she feeds her animals grass up until a certain age because their economics don't permit her to do it any other way. They're already growing these non-GMO products. Now, these non-GMO products means they don't spray. So she doesn't spray. They're not certified organic, but she's same boat as everybody else. I don't want to pay to certify myself organic. I want people to come to me and I can explain these things to them so that they trust our offerings and what we do here on the farm. So she does a crop rotation with those 3 or 4 grains, and then the cows come in, they graze, they're grazing on pastures the whole time. But once they reach a certain age, they harvest the grain and they feed it to the cows the last 3 months of their lives. In marketing terms, you would call this grass-fed, grain-finished cows. And that's what she tells her buyers. I grain finish my animals. She's like, my animals don't get sick. My animals are healthy to slaughter. I don't need to use antibiotics. She goes, my cows are healthy. Her animals are healthy. She also raises 135 hogs. Like right now, the cows are grazing in a field of plantain grass and sunflower. So that's what they eat. So here's the other predicament about grass-fed cattle. There's no such thing. Okay. And the reason I say that is there's pasture-raised cattle, which you heard Joe Heckman reiterate. Basically, when a grass turns to seed, that's grain. So a cow is going to be eating grain. Like one way or another, that cow is eating grain, even if it's eating grass. And it's the same with all animals that we want to call grass-fed. This is just marketing propaganda. Like cows are also eating insects. Does that make them omnivores? It's the idea, the mentality around all of these things. It's the true meaning of what we're all doing is supporting regenerative farmers, people who are concentrating on the health of their soils. We have a lot of buyers who reach out and said, I want to make sure my meat's 100% grass-fed, but they have no idea why. They're just basing it off some one documentary that they watched or one book that's biased towards that agenda. I mean, 10 years into this, and I'm realizing this is crazy. If they're raised on pastures and they're in pastures and they're eating grass, that's great. We just want to avoid confinement and predominantly grain-fed. I mean, we work with a bison farmer down south who also raises bison in Lancaster. And because bison haven't been so domesticated for so long, they're still more wild in their motion. So they do what's called free ration. They'll put hay out and then they'll put corn silage out and let the bison choose which one they want to eat. He's like, the bison predominantly go towards the hay. They won't even touch the silage. But you do that to a cow, that cow is going to go towards the silage. That cow is going to go towards grain because we've domesticated them for so long that it's almost purebred in their genetics at this point. So understanding that from a larger scope of farming and industry and food production, it goes a long way because we don't want to judge farmers who are doing things right, and I don't think anybody in this group is. It's but these are the things that when we hear people ask about these things, it's always good to just give a little bit of education to just pass that notion on. Yeah, grass-fed is great, but it's better to just know your farmer. Talk to your farmer, see how they're raising that animal. And if they can explain it to you in a way where they're like, our animals are healthy, our animals are happy, they're not confined, they're out in the sun 24 hours a day, they have the freedom to be out in the sun 24 hours a day, that is what you want that's what you want to hear. Her and her husband are working hard to get this farm up and going, and they're doing a good job. They're 10 years in at this point. And they're raising beautiful animals. She's got about 400 egg layers. She's also got 135 hogs that she raises annually. And then I think she said she's up to about 100 head of cattle. But she has to feed them grain towards the end because the cows, once they get to a certain size, would destroy her pastures. You know, cows are eating 75% of the time they're awake. So here's a perfect pastured poultry operation. You know, the birds have the freedom to go in and out. There is corn and non-GMO corn and soy for them to feed on. Some will feed on it, some will forage in the grass, which brings me to the other point about eggs and yolks and colors of yolks. If the egg yolk is the same color all the time, that's more of a problem than a yellow yolk. And the reason being is that means that they're being manufactured. That means that that animal is being told what it's going to eat.
They can manipulate what they eat to make the yolk that color.
Yep.
Because you know the standard is you open the egg and if it's orange, it's good. So we want to shed some light on that. They can add paprika to the food to make their yolks red, or what's the other?
Marigolds. They feed on marigold flowers. So, which is great, feed on marigolds, but it's not making that egg.
That shouldn't be the standard.
That's not the standard. It's not making that egg any more nutritious. Here's cows grazing in grass. All of this grass is to seed, which they're eating. So that's technically a grain. So how are you to say that's 100% grass-fed beef? It's all marketing. It's really, really all marketing. That's all it is. It's to boost sales, to increase revenue. And unfortunately, it's sad to see, especially when you dive deeper into this. But you know, our fear, not our fear, but you know, what we're working for or towards is how do we pull people out of that? Because we've been in this for 10 years.
Well, our job is to dive deeper and to show it to you guys. I think that's our number one, transparency, and seeing the animals on the farm and learning all of this that you don't. Otherwise, it's all labels and names, and we want to put it together.
Yeah. It's all about community. That's what I love about everyone here. You know, we're realizing like we're really in charge of all of this. Like this is, you know, but when you hear the economics from farmers, you know, we've been in this for a while and we've seen farmers come and go, especially young farmers that come into it trying to make a living off it. It's almost impossible. It's like you have to have some other means or backing to get yourself started. You need to have supplemental income so that this is just a side project for you. I think that's good in one sense, because if there are smaller, people buying smaller plots of land and they're raising animals and either sharing with their neighbors and then we're kind of getting back into that system that we were originally in. And if it helps kind of supplement their cost of living, then great. Unfortunately, a lot of farmers get into it and try to make it their primary source.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think we have a lot of farmers that are
Just
full-time
full-time
farmers.
no.
Like Joe is a professor.
Yeah.
John Lima's an engineer. You know, I could start naming all of them. They all have
Supplemental income.
And there's a handful that do this full-time.
Yeah.
So that tells us a lot.
It says a lot. It's, it can't, like, we're excited to be in the position that we're in because we have the demand. So now we have a clean slate. We have a property that we can just add product, add production to and try to do it the way that we want to do it and the way that we feel confident and comfortable knowing what we know, to then share it with the public, and we'll have an avenue to move it. So we're not so dependent on like marketing it and selling it and bringing it to farmers markets. And like, we already have, the support network to be able to move whatever it is we decide to produce here. So we can do it at any volume or at any frequency we wish.
That, Joe, I think that's one of the first things you said to me when you met us and we started working together, that's what you love most about working with us at Bone In, is that you don't have to go out there and market yourself. Like, we could do that for you. And you're holding up a book, Farm Marketing.
Yeah, actually, I agree. You're very helpful because I'm busy and I don't have time to do all the marketing, although I do keep a farm stand. But for my eggs and my meat, you guys are a big help. this book here is something I recommend to farmers. It's I mean, I think it's only like 50 pages, 60. And it's written by a raw milk farmer, Charlotte Smith. She's in Oregon. And so she started up a raw milk farm and did this for many years, but then now she's just working on marketing and teaches courses. But anyway, you may want to check out her book. It's called Farm Marketing from the Heart: How to Attract Your Dream Customers to Build Your Profitable Farm. So I've seen her speak. Actually, she came to Rutgers one time to speak, and she's very well spoken and very knowledgeable about email marketing and websites and how to attract customers and so on. And I think she's got a lot of really good ideas. The other thing that I would say when it comes to marketing, and I mean, you know, it's kind of like what you've already been saying, Ron, that you don't want to try to compete on producing commodities in New Jersey. Then you got to compete on volume and yield and that sort of thing. Instead, focus on quality, produce the highest quality food you can, and then people will want it. One thing that New Jersey has is good markets. There are people who want these foods, and so I think that's one way to go about it.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we can open it up for Q&As at this point. If anybody has any specific questions they want to ask, please feel free. We do market on our site, grass-fed beef, and we are going to continue to do that. But we will slowly integrate the option to choose grass-fed, grain-finished beef. And I just want people to be aware that, we're just trying to help the local farmers who are doing things for improvement, just on an economical standard and environmental standard, etc. I was just on a call with the NRCS yesterday just to get more information. The NRCS is the National Resource Conservation Service. But they are giving money to farmers to improve. They've been doing it for a long time, I think since 1930, 35. They're giving farmers funding to improve their habitats, to improve their environment specifically. So there are organizations that are working towards this. So it's really, there's a lot of work being done to move people in this direction. It's just, unless you're encompassed in it, it's almost like how are you learning about it? So, it's one way I'm glad that I got sick when I did, because it did push me in this direction. It really opened my eyes. And yeah, I'm happy to be where we are. But there are a lot of organizations moving in this general direction. So it's good.
Yeah, Adam.
I have a question, actually. It may be for you guys, maybe for Joe as well. Are there any or what are the different kinds of considerations when you're talking about more durable crops like orchards and vineyards, where you can't just swap out and rotate things so easily? Are there special and different considerations for soil health in those kinds of environments?
Yeah, I'll respond to that. Well, perennials, trees, grasses, legumes that are perennials, by their very nature, they have a higher level of resiliency than annual row crops. Annual row crops are things like corn and soybean. They're the most vulnerable to drought. One of the neat things about pastures is that, yeah, they suffer from drought too, but as soon as you get a rain, they bounce right back. Whereas, let's say corn doesn't get the rain at just the time it needs, like when it's tasseling and making that ear, it's in the reproductive stage. At that time, it's extremely vulnerable. But you take a grass plant or a sod pasture. I mean, yeah, it won't grow and it will suffer during that period of time. But as soon as the rain comes along, it can just bounce right back. It's got a resiliency that row crops just don't have. Trees too, because they got an extensive root system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of advantages to perennials over annuals, and they do a lot more to build soil fertility and build soil organic matter. So like, I could share with you, and Ron, maybe you want to share this. If I send it to you, you could pass it along. There's a farm over in Milford, New Jersey, called Cows Outside. And
Bobolink.
yeah, Bobolink. They purchased the farm and around the year 2000. And then it was a corn and soybean operation, annual row crops, lots of tillage and low organic matter, depleted soils. He put the whole farm in pasture, and it's still in pasture, permanent pasture. So I went to that farm every year in the spring after they bought it, and I sampled the soil. It started at 2.5% organic matter, and in 5 years it was up to 4% organic matter, and now it just kind of plateaued and stays there. But that's a good level, and so it increased organic matter content in just 60% in just 5 years. I mean, if we want to put carbon in the soil, take it out of the atmosphere, put it in the soil, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, we sell Bobolink cheese on our website. They also make wonderful breads that we sell. They're a great farm. One thing I noticed when we did a tour there is they are grass fed or
I think
pasture.
100%.
Yes.
Except maybe the
So,
pigs, I don't know. But then I guess he feeds some dairy to the pigs, I think.
so one thing that John Lima, we were actually just talking about this, is grass-fed milk operations only milk once a day.
Some do,
Versus-
yeah.
versus
Some do once a day milking.
So this Bobolink farm specifically is not, they don't have the capacity to sell milk because of that. They do
They
special.
sell cheese,
Yes,
cheeses.
yes,
not fluid milk.
yes.
So no.
And Adam, I wanted to add that one of the farms that is actually starting an orchard is Ironbound Farm. We're about 20 minutes from there. They've been doing hard cider. They're called Ironbound Farms because their operation actually started in the Ironbound district in Newark, making the cider and bringing apples from elsewhere. And then they bought the farm, and now they're planting their apple trees to eventually get to making their own with their own apples. And one thing that they do there is that they left between the rows of apple trees enough space to run the chickens
That's a
across.
really neat idea.
Yes. So you're not rotating, but you have constant forage and constant movement of air and bugs and grasses growing. So that's another way to manage that.
For chickens, you still have to feed them some grain.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And so
They're
there's a
working the
need for
soil.
some annual crops.
Yeah, he runs them across, and they work the soil as if.
But it's very hard to find organic apples in this area because they're succumb to aphids, which is a pest that can ruin orchards, in a very short period of time.
Well, fruit trees in general are difficult to do organically here in the East. Most organic fruit is produced in the West, where you got more arid environment.
Do you feel the same about your pawpaw trees and your persimmons? Like they're the more native.
Persimmons have very few pests.
Yeah,
there's no need. And I mean, peaches were great this year, and I never spray anything. And but apples not so good. Pears were really good too, and pears are easier to grow than apples. So the other thing that I have right now, I have pecans. So,
oh wow,
nice.
Yeah, that's another crop that you can grow in New Jersey. Yeah, they're falling off the tree now, and there's northern varieties of pecan, but it takes them about 10 years to get into bearing good. And then along the river, I'm collecting black walnuts. I mean, you can, and they're excellent, tasty nut, and just
we have a couple hickories here. I harvested with Noah. Yeah.
So what do you do with them, Joe? Because we have tons of black walnut trees in our yard, and all we do is trip over them.
Well, what you do is you pick them up and then you put them on like a concrete floor, and you smash that outer green husk off, and then
Because you don't want
when
to
you put
touch
them
it.
out to
That's
dry,
like stains your skin,
that
right?
you know you get that husk off, that green husk off, and then you place them somewhere to dry, but just be careful where you put them so that like squirrels will rob them. That happen. That
Do all the work for them.
right. And but I mean it's a I think it's one of the tastiest nuts.
Well, how do you get it into the next phase then? Because that's the hard part, right?
Well, they need to dry. Like right now, I'm picking them up, and then I think that by December, late November, December, they'll be dry enough that they'll be good, ready to crack. You
Oh.
need a good nutcracker too.
Yeah.
Don't you
Um,
use a vice? You use a vice, don't
A
you, Joe?
vice works good, but there's a special nutcracker that's made for them.
Yes. Yes.
But a vice works very well. And I mean, and when you look around black walnut trees, there's some that crack out easy, and there's some that are just not worth picking up, and they're more difficult. And there are named varieties too that are much better and easier to crack, and they got a higher percent of meat to shell, sort of thing. To just like they've been selected to be better, and so on. So.
All right. So if anybody has any other questions, please throw them at us. Anything at all?
Or if you want to share your health journey, I know we all have our own that got us to where we are today.
Chris Barada was just traveling in California and came home early. He was sharing his experiences of lack of food out there, and he needed his phone in back.
Oh. You didn't find anything, Chris, in California that could meet
So Jen's your aunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
She gave me a store to go to, and when I went there, honestly,
He
it was
FaceTimed me.
it was like an Acme. It wasn't anything. Not one thing was.
I'm blown away. I
Oh,
thought
come on.
California, yeah.
California, it's easy to get raw milk in the grocery store. Like go to a grocery store called Sprouts. They sell a lot of raw milk. It comes from
Now you tell me.
Yeah, right.
Should have called Joe, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, there's raw milk is easily widely available in California. They got the biggest raw milk dairy farm, which is called Raw Farm. It used to be called Organic Pastures. Mark McAfee's farm, biggest raw milk dairy in all of North America. They got hundreds of cows, and they sell all over the state of California.
So when I was there was actually I messaged someone, like emailed and called them from Weston Price, and they never got back to me, but they ended up getting back to me like 4 days when I was there already. And I actually was I got a motorcycle and was riding the coast. But the days for all these different farms and locations he gave me, they were all like open just 2 days a week, or they were open on a just a Monday, and it was like 10 to 4, just times that I wasn't even that close to them. So
Well, I did
but I don't
notice
know
when-
what Sprouts was. I didn't know even that was.
looked at them, but I don't think California has as many roadside markets as New Jersey does,
No.
actually.
Not at all.
Unless you really know where to look.
I don't even think Pennsylvania has as many as New Jersey. We went to the Poconos and
Yeah.
we didn't bring enough eggs. And we're like, let's just drive around. We'll find an egg stand.
Took us like 2 hours to
No.
finally find a farm that
No,
carried
we
eggs.
had to Google it and
Yeah.
then we drove there.
Yeah.
But
I
one-
put out a farm stand at Manners Road, and it's doing very well, but I don't sell any meat or eggs. It's just vegetables and flowers and firewood, and people stopping all the time.
yeah, we're lucky in New Jersey for
And
sure.
I put out the bone and food cards so that
Oh, thanks.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
Always thinking.
So, and
That's
I put out, I guess, for entertainment, to get people interested in stuff about what's new, and I put out some entertaining, I don't know, little comics and stuff.
You don't put your books out there?
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking of putting like an agricultural library out there, you know, like one of those
Yeah, why
free
not?
It's
libraries.
looking better and better every time I drive by. You're
Yeah.
doing a great, you're building all that. I'm gonna take a picture of your farm stand so we can share it with everybody.
Okay, sometime when I have some nice flowers out there.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm in the summertime, I got tomatoes, and my watermelon crop was lousy this year, so that wasn't good, but otherwise watermelons sell real well. Pumpkins,
What happened? Last year your watermelons were,
I know, I really don't know why they did so poorly. I got very few.
We had a drought in the middle of something, like, didn't we?
No, it wasn't a drought, and I don't really know the reason, but it was some kind of disease problem, and I haven't figured it out yet. But transplanting, the ones I transplanted grew in the greenhouse and then transplanted, they did the best. But otherwise, planting them from seed, I planted and I replanted and replanted, and then it was too late.
but you did the same thing you did last year.
Right? It's different
Different-
field, different
different stuff.
rotation.
Yeah.
And
There you go.
I mean, all the love that goes
But-
into our food is incredible.
Takes a
and-
lot of patience.
every year is a little different. I mean, there's years where some things do really exceptionally well, and then other years, you know, then like this year was the year of the peach. The peaches were just phenomenal. So
Makes sense. I mean, it's like, we can't control nature and the climate and whatever's going on. So,
right.
and when we first moved to our other property, the first year we planted zucchini and squash and they thrived. And the next year we got the squash beetle and we didn't get anything. We
Right.
hardly got a
Exactly.
handful of them.
My
But
first
we
year
also
in
planted in the exact same space. Which,
That's what I was gonna
I
ask.
know,
Yeah.
rotate.
yeah.
rotate
but
helps.
yeah, you
Yeah.
never know. Do you ever do garlic, Joe? Do you ever plant garlic?
I haven't ever grown garlic. I don't, I mean, is there a good market for it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. If you
You know,
can
somebody
cure,
I think that grows it is Devin from NOFA.
oh,
You know
that's
him?
Nice. German hardy.
I have to learn how to grow it.
If you do grow
We
garlic,
wanna do
Joe,
garlic, yeah.
grow German hardy. That variety goes all winter long. Once it's cured, it's amazing.
Well, you have to have the space to cure it, so an enclosed space with
I-
air.
That's a good suggestion. I have to learn how to do that because the other thing I like, put something out at the farm stand that doesn't spoil so quick, right?
Yeah.
I mean, by January, February, for us at Bone Inn, it's hard for us to keep the garlic going because there's not enough farmers growing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a Fernbrook Farm is a big garlic grower. You could check with them. They're down in Burlington
Yeah,
County.
I've heard of them.
Okay.
And he's not certified but organic otherwise. He's a good grower.
I think Blue Moon did a lot of garlic this year too, so I'm hoping they can help carry us a little bit.
I'll look into growing it then. I have to learn how to grow it.
Yeah, Lima taught us how to grow it. We just grew a small batch for ourselves, and it was on point the way they taught us to do it. It's a small window of planting, and the seed has to be.
When do you plant it?
In
Like
like 2
second,
weeks.
third week in November. Yeah. Before you get
Oh,
like
you
consecutive-
planted in the fall, so now
Yes,
it's
that's
soon
Now's
to
the
plant.
time. Yeah.
that's the key. Plant it in the fall, cover it with hay.
Or leaves or whatever.
Oh, okay, that's
See?
good. I have that. And then,
You do have a lot of hay.
well, but then, well, where do I get this special seed? Or is it seed
Well,
or
I
are
think
they
Lima
bulbs?
sells.
Lima, you should stop by Lima and see if they have any left, because I know that they put aside what they needed for them. So they might have some left over.
Yeah, just the cloves.
So
You just take the
yeah,
cloves
I don't
off the
know if
head.
everybody knows on the call, you can plant just a clove of the garlic head. Just one clove
That's the
will,
seed.
that's the seed for the next.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, there's something I grew that is a new crop. You ever heard of tiger nuts?
No.
It's an African food. that it's actually this little thing that they're about the size of a big pea or a marble, and they grow on nutsedge, which is the same species as the weed, but it makes in the soil a little tuber, and they call them tiger nuts. And they have kind of a coconut taste to them.
So it's not a nut.
No, it's not a true nut, but
Okay.
that's what they're called.
Okay.
We just got introduced to goon berries.
Oh, okay. But that's
Dunwald.
I think
Dunwald
that's in
Farms.
isn't that in the solanaceous family?
They don't like garlic.
I couldn't tell you
There's
because he
some-
brought us samples because nobody knows what they are, so nobody buys them. Dunwald Farms. I don't know if you know them.
In Hopewell.
They're in Hopewell.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's Adrian Hyde.
Yes,
Yeah,
Adrian.
yeah, Adrian.
He said he was selling it to like a specialty juice market that like just has all weird fruits and make juices. So he did have an outlet for them. But
He gave us a bunch to freeze and try. They're interesting. Definitely more of a jam type of berry.
What's it called again?
Goonberries.
I don't know how to spell it.
Goonberries.
It's that when he
Tiger
told
nuts
me
and
it reminded me
goonberries.
of like Goonies. Yeah, like right.
The tiger nut.
You looked it up.
I'm looking.
You looked up tiger nuts, huh?
Did you ever pluck a tiger's nuts?
Like something you need to be real careful with.
Yep. You're real careful.
Very delicate.
Well, I'll just say this is like a really kind of like beautiful element of these calls is the exchange of ideas and knowledge and wisdom. Quite beautiful to witness. So let's keep that going. And also, I wanted to just leave a couple of minutes because, last time part of the community connection was obviously acknowledging, everything that you, Ron, and Virginia do for the community, and also, letting the community know what you could use to support you guys and your mission and your business. So I just wanted to check in and just say, what do you guys need from your community?
Yes.
Adam?
Yeah, so Will has mentioned he's been fantastic for our tech services, and we're paying him with some meat shares. He actually didn't want anything, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. He's doing like a lot of work that would really be onerous for me currently, especially where we are. So we got some hands to help build out the infrastructure at Lima to expand on it. I don't know if Matt's still on this call, but he's going to be helping us with researching some grant opportunities for our farmstead. So yeah, there's always things that we need. For instance, like we're in the market for a new vehicle. So if anybody, we repurpose vehicles. So if anybody comes across a big vehicle that someone's trying to trade or sell or even donate, like we'll consider taking it. Like, please always keep us in mind for these things. Everything that we do has to be on a budget in order to make this work. We're operating out of a facility that John Lima has provided with us. And I tell you what, like that facility is why we are where we are today. Without that facility, I can't imagine what the overhead would be. And to look at what we have to charge to make this work for what, everybody yells at me, especially Jen, that I want to give everything away. She's like, you're doing like good stuff. Like, why do you want to give everything away? But it's because I want people to have access to these things of all incomes, like not just, middle class, upper class. Like the low income communities are the ones driving these crappy commodity systems because they have no other option. Their education isn't on these matters, or is not where it should be, because this isn't what they're teaching you in schools. It's the important values of life. So like, how do we make these things more affordable for all people? And the only way, right now we're playing Robin Hood. We're part of these SNAP Ed programs, one in Trenton and one in Asbury Park. where we go to the schools and they get grant funding to pay us to come out and hand food out to their families. These are families that have never seen an egg that wasn't white. You know, they see brown eggs and they're like, what is that? They ask what it was, literally, like, I got asked, that's an egg? I've never seen a brown egg before. Colored beets. I mean, these income communities, unfortunately, are making up a very large portion of our population, and they don't have access to these foods. So how do we give them access to these foods? You know, it's that's what we're really working towards, because I think as the consumer, the majority consumer, starts to put their efforts and their energies and their money towards these fields, it's just going to become I think more advantageous for lower income families. I mean, we have a girl driving for us right now who just wants access to quality food. She's a 60-year-old woman from Perth Amboy, and she was happy to come drive for us in exchange for food, because she can't afford it on her disability to buy the food that she needs. So yeah, that's really the mission. So, you know, in a nutshell, like, always keep us in mind for, you know, vehicles, or if you want to give like a helping hand or research grants, or you want to apply a little bit of time out in the field or in front of the, you know, the web. We just got an accountant, our buddy Mike Recchia.
Also part of this community of buyers. We called to action last time, but accounting is something that's really hard because of the expense, and we got him on board, so that's huge.
And we got assistance from Linda, who was on this call last, who also put us in touch with the Hope Academy Charter School to be part of this grant funding opportunity. So basically, they buy a bunch of products from us, and we just go out there and hand it out to 100 families.
That's the ideal situation for us, because we're moving so much farmer product. We're helping the farmer. We're getting it to these low income families that wouldn't have access otherwise. So finding these grants that are out there, that's huge for us, for the farmer, for the families, and obviously you guys purchasing on a weekly basis and just seeing your names over and over. I know every single name from packing your orders, and
I know your bellies are definitely feeling it, enjoying all of that good food.
Well, I actually just realized, I have an opportunity to provide potentially to you guys a full day of uncompensated labor from a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old who need a little exposure to some hard labor. So I'm gonna bring my kids down and put them to work.
We should do a boot camp day.
Yeah.
Like kids boot camp.
So
I love that. Absolutely.
Whippersnappers.
I think the adults might need it more than the kids.
Yes, definitely, Jimmy.
I think together. I think the key is together, doing it with the kids. So.
Yeah, one thing we were talking about with Dave, who I think's on this call, Dave Zach, is what we can do with our property now to bring the community closer together. And we're talking about, either getting like some sort of high tunnel to use as more of a venue for right now, to get people to come out and do outdoor dinners. And instead of like come and pick your own, since we're just establishing our farm and we don't want to wait, 5 years for production to get people out here, maybe we have people come out and help us plant. And then we do like a pig roast, so it's not like something where you come all casually and fancy and you drink high quality wine, but instead, we'll feed everybody and everyone gets their hands dirty and we all sit around a table dirty and eat some good food. So just a different idea, to, and say, hey, we're going to serve blueberry pie, but instead of like us picking blueberries, we're going to put some blueberry plants in the ground. And he tended to love the idea, so that's something we're pondering at this point to help bring the community closer together and make a more intimate gathering for everyone who wants to get involved and take part.
But yeah, Adam, let's connect, because it's true. Just having the kids have the exposure of the food's coming from there, and then actually cooking it together, that ties it together for them in a way that you wouldn't get it otherwise from a supermarket.
All right, we'll talk more on that. it's, I'm gonna volunteer them for slave labor.
Noah earns his keep. He organizes the cartons that people return to us. Noah packs packs them with eggs that we get. Sometimes we'll try to save 25 cents on a dozen, and we'll get flats from our farmers and then have Noah carton all the eggs.
And reuse.
Family business.
And he has his tricycle that you have like the box connected to the back. So he drives his bike around and delivers. It's very cute. Ron and Virginia, do you want to talk about Thanksgiving turkeys?
Sure. And then Jimmy, you too, email us if you want to do something with the kids. We don't have anything formal organized, but I'm happy to go back and forth.
Yeah, I think, whatever you guys have in mind, and then, I think a weekend might always be better. This way my wife would, I think, love to join, and nieces, nephews, whoever. And then after you're done talking about the Thanksgiving turkeys, I just had a question about the donation portion of Bone In. I found that on one of the pages donating.
Yeah.
Just wanted to hear a little bit more about that if you had a second.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't realize we never explained how that works, aside from it being on the website.
Yeah, just like writing it on the website.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, for Thanksgiving turkeys, we work with a heritage breed turkey, the Spanish Bronze, I think they're called. We work with Doublebrook Farms. We were offering Cornish crosses, which is not your Cornish cross, your broad-breasted whites, which are your traditional Thanksgiving birds. We used to do that with Lima, but it's very hard because they lose a lot of their birds to predator. And sometimes even their dog, who's supposed to protect them. So they always end up by cutting it short, and it just becomes, they don't raise enough turkeys to have to deal with that anxiety of not being able to fulfill someone's Thanksgiving order. So we work specifically with heritage bronze, Spanish Bronze turkeys, which are a heritage breed turkey, never crossbred. For genetics. This is Doublebrook Farms, and Farmer John McConaughey. He does a fantastic job with them. He raises a lot of birds, and he actually incubates himself. So he doesn't buy chicks. He actually has the eggs hatched on farm, which is almost unheard of.
I don't think we know any other farm that does that.
No. So he's doing a fantastic job with his birds, and let me tell you, these heritage turkeys, you'll never go back after you.
No, yeah, every year we get amazing feedback.
All those Thanksgiving conversations about this turkey's dry. You can keep that bird in for an extra hour past due time, and it's still pretty darn good.
What does he feed his turkeys?
Non-GMO feed is
Western price.
But they're outside. They're free ranged in the woods on grass. He's got quite a few birds. I want to say he has about 1,200 turkeys.
Jen, you wanted to give out the specifics about how to order the turkey. I don't know everybody.
Oh no, you could just, it's just online. You can order them, and then there's we'll email you a link for a $25 deposit. And then you could pick your delivery day of Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, the week of Thanksgiving.
Yes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
The 20th, 21st, or 22nd.
And it's whole birds only?
This year, yes.
Yeah, we used to do breasts and things like that, but it became a little onerous for the farmers more so than us.
The butcher at Doublebrook said they're not breaking them down this year.
Well, they actually just lost their master butcher, so
they don't have the capacity. And then for the donation platform,
what was your specific question? Just how it works?
Yeah, is there any kind of I guess just like the mechanics of it.
So we work with Tatiana. She runs a fridge in Jersey City,
West Side Community Kitchen.
She started it when COVID hit, and her community didn't have access to food in those areas because that area of Jersey City is a food desert. So it's just fridges outside her place. We bring, we drop off, and then people just come in and grab and go. And then we worked with two of them. One of them shut down.
It was a church in Hoboken.
It was a church in Hoboken, or West New York was the church.
Okay, there was two.
Yeah. And then
Sorry. Ron, I think I muted you by accident, so you need to unmute yourself. Sorry about that. That was my fault.
sorry, I don't know where I left, but the Hope Academy Charter School and the Snap Ed Trenton program. One thing we've been working towards is just increasing offerings to the families that they're providing, only because the efficiencies, the logistics are a lot easier, a lot more efficient.
We did that on our last Hope Academy market. We go one day, all the families are already there. Because the school holds an event for the families, and then they finish off the event by us giving them the food. So that's through the grant funding, but we added to that from the donations from the bone-in community. So they got a bigger bag than they would have.
Yeah.
But the main donation stream is going to Tatiana at this point. We had a few other ones, but Tatiana's been the sole
Yeah,
one.
Tatiana's the one. And it's probably like once a month that we donate milk to her and veggies, but she prefers it all at lump sum versus like individual orders, because she's like sometimes not around and she can't manage it herself. Like she had to but recruit volunteers to come and help break down boxes and bags, and it was just becoming onerous for her. So
the logistics on the back end is you guys choose donation, and then once a month, Ron goes through and gathers them.
and we just donate it where
We donate it to either one place or we add it to our grant.
if there was somewhere in specific you wanted to donate to out of our groups, you can, because I know Rebecca, who's usually on this call, she knows the Tatiana who runs the operation, and she does like she doesn't say all of her donations go there, but she does like to see most of her donations go there.
Or if anybody on the call has a place that needs donations, the logistics are hard sometimes because it has to be on our delivery radius, obviously. But if somebody has a place that will take donations, we can add that into our donation people.
Yeah, that's great. Even if it's not something specific to what you guys have that's going out that month or that week or whatever, I'm also fine donating just money and then whatever you guys see fit.
Amazing.
Yeah, however that works. It's great.
Thank
Thank you guys. You guys, it's really amazing. Just the whole thing. Really
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for taking time.
Yeah. So I will send to you, Ron, a link for the recording for this call so that you can share with the community. Just one final thought for you guys to take away. Planting the seed, bone-in food swag.
Okay.
If there was a hat that I could buy, I'd buy it. If there was a refrigerated carry bag, I'd buy it. So if you're looking for,
Sam agrees.
We do that would be super nice if we
and to use a sustainable farming, analogy, that's my seed planted with you.
This is big. I see Versace and this is gonna be amazing.
We're gonna do everything from cow hides. It's gotta be.
Irritate a vegan near you.
Kevin and I have one more thing to share before everybody leaves. If you do not have plans this Thursday and want to come down to Belmar, New Jersey, Kevin is performing the Dark Side of the Moon album by Pink Floyd, and it's synced up to the movie The Wizard of Oz. They have a 7-piece band. It is an incredible show.
It is.
So
We
We
saw it.
saw it.
It
We
was
saw
good.
it.
It was pretty.
Testify.
So we'd love for you to come out and enjoy a beautiful evening with your locals, because that's what we're all about.
And where can they get the tickets, Jen?
I just put it in the link,
Oh.
all the info, and there's a link in belmararts.org.
I love the swag idea, Adam. We're way overdue.
Totally. And you have
Yes.
a great logo, and I know it would all go to a great, great purpose.
Nice. And
All right, everybody.
Joe Heckman would sell it in his farm
He
stand.
would put it in the.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take a
absolutely.
picture so everybody sees. He builds everything himself. Joe's the best.
All right, it's 9 p.m. Everybody have a great night. Thank
Yes, you too. Thank you for
Thank
coming, guys.
you. Have a good night.
Ciao.
Oh, and get your orders in by Wednesday, 12 midnight, please. Good night, everyone.
Night.